So, a couple of things have happened over the past 24, 48 hours, if you will, 72 hours, if you will, 24 to 72, we'll put it that way, within WWE that, some people are in love with, are happy about, and some are kind of like not too happy about. They're kind of like in the middle, if you will. Or there's a division, we'll put it that way. So on one hand, you have something that a lot of people are in agreement with that, should happen and should have been announced long before. And then you have something else that a lot of people are divided about. So let's take a look first at that one that a lot of people are divided about. That would be Raquel Gonzalez. Raquel Gonzalez won the NXT Women's Championship on night one in the main event of Stand and Deliver on Wednesday night. Thus ending Io Shirai's, nearly year-long run as champion. Now, there's been basically quite a division, since, this moment happened. And heck, there's been a division, about it happening even before it happened. Because on one hand, you had some people feeling though the time was right to give the title to somebody else because Io had it for a long time and it's time to move on from Io. And others feel that, Io should have kept the belt because to them, Raquel's not ready yet. Or that Raquel should have been replaced by Dakota Kai. And, despite how you feel about it either way, there's one thing you have to keep in mind. Raquel Gonzalez becoming champion, is nothing new. And the reason I say it's nothing new is because her becoming champion, despite how you feel about her, and especially her in-ring ability, this is something that's been going on since the days of Vince McMahon Sr. And that's a fact. I mean, when you look at the legendary champions he had back then, from Bruno Sammartino to superstar Billy Graham, both of those stars, I should say, they were good in the ring, but let's be honest, and I say this with all due respect to both of them, especially Bruno Sammartino, God rest his soul, with all due respect to both of them, although they were great champions and they held the championships for a significant amount of time, they weren't as good in the ring as a lot of people would lead you on to believe. I mean, I'm not saying that they weren't, great wrestlers when it came to certain matchups against certain opponents. I'm not saying that. But the thing is, what really, made them the champions in the long run, what made Vince McMahon Sr. and his son Vince McMahon Jr., carry this on later down the line into the, modern age of wrestling, the golden age of wrestling during the 80s and the 90s, what made Vince McMahon Sr. put the belt and put the spotlight on Sammartino, on superstar Billy Graham, wasn't because, like I said, they couldn't get it done in the ring, because against certain opponents they can. But the truth is, the reason they put the belt on them is because they had a multimedia appeal to them. They had an appeal to them that people would, gravitate to. It would grab their attention and they'd want to see more of that person. They'd want to see more of what Bruno Sammartino can do. And thus, by wanting to see more of what he could do, they would tune in to the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, or the Capital Wrestling Corporation, as it was known back then. The same thing with superstar Billy Graham. He may not have been as good in the ring as a lot of people, like I said, would lead you to believe, just, depending on who his opponents were. But he had enough appeal. He was basically Hulk Hogan before there was a Hulk Hogan, and he had enough appeal that despite his in-ring abilities, drew people to see him, drew people to watch Worldwide Wrestling Federation, drew people to MSG. Same thing with Bruno Sammartino. So the thing is, this is something that's been going on since those days. And it continued on with the likes of the Iron Sheik, the likes of Hulk Hogan, the likes of Ultimate Warrior, Diesel in the 90s. You want to talk about somebody that, despite being in the business for a couple of years, going through various gimmicks in WCW when it was still part of the NWA, a lot of people would look at Kevin Nash back when he won the belt days, nearly like 5 days after Survivor Series, and they would say he shouldn't have gotten the belt because he was still too green, despite being in the business for a couple of years, going through various gimmicks. A lot of people would feel that he's too green, and he still needs work, and he needs certain opponents to make him look good. Again, this is something that with Raquel has been going on since, the days of Vince McMahon Sr. That despite what, they could do in the ring, and sometimes they could actually pull off decent matches, depending on the certain opponents they were up against, basically this is, the reason Raquel got the belt is, again, it's all about her appeal. It's all about her look. It's all about the fact that when you watch NXT and you see this massive woman, as the NXT Women's Champion, you're like, whoa, I want to see more of her. I want to see what she's about. And sometimes being given the championship, guess what? Yeah, it puts a little weight on your shoulder, but it motivates you to be better. It motivates you to want to represent the fact that you are worthy of that championship, that you are worthy of carrying the ball and running and scoring with it. So, when it comes to Raquel, I get it. I get it from both sides. I understand that, yeah, maybe she's not technically ready to be, in that position. But on the other hand, a lot of people are looking at it from that old school mentality that McMahon and his father before him, McMahon Sr., have had. That despite what they could do in the ring, they still had an appeal. I mean, you can't tell me that McMahon Sr. never thought for one moment when he had him in his territory to put the freaking belt on Haystack's Calhoun. You can't tell me he didn't consider that, because he did. He did. So there have been numerous, opportunities throughout the history of the WWE where this has happened beforehand and will still continue to happen even after Raquel probably drops the belt down the line. Now, besides that, let's talk about the other thing that, a lot of people are happy about as I, check my time here. Let me check my time here real quickly, guys. Now, let's talk about the other thing, that a lot of people are happy about. And that is the fact that, and you know what, we'll do this in a separate video, because I don't want to go over time. I'm doing this in 4K. But to close this one out, again, guys, like I said, this is something that's been going on since the days of McMahon Sr. It doesn't matter what you can do potentially in the ring or how you are on the mic. If you have a certain look to you and a certain, attractive, basically if you have a certain attractable look to you that's going to get people to tune in and be like, ooh, I want to see more about this person, or I want to find out more about this person, then that's all that matters. And sometimes being given a championship can help motivate you, because they're saying, hey, we're putting the responsibility on you now. Now it's up to you to carry that responsibility and prove to everybody that we were right in making you the face of the division as champion. So, yeah, overall, I get where people are coming from with Raquel, but, we'll see what happens in the near future. But now, on to the next video, where I talk about the other news that basically people are actually very in agreement and happy about, especially when it comes to tonight, I should say, at WrestleMania.